In 1962, Rachel Carson published Silent Spring. Her book exposed the dangers of pesticides. It sparked a conversation about humanity's impact on the environment. People started to connect human actions with environmental consequences. This marked an early awakening to the potential for ecological crisis. Carson's work resonated deeply with the public. It led to the banning of DDT, a harmful pesticide. More importantly, it ignited a broader environmental movement. People began demanding cleaner air and water. This newfound awareness laid the groundwork for future climate change discussions. The impact of Silent Spring extended beyond immediate environmental concerns. It raised fundamental questions about the direction of progress. It challenged the prevailing assumption that technological advancement always equaled human well-being. The book served as a stark reminder that progress without ecological responsibility could have dire consequences. This growing awareness coincided with other societal shifts. The 1960s witnessed the rise of counterculture and anti-establishment movements. People questioned traditional power structures and demanded greater accountability. Environmentalism found a natural home within this atmosphere of questioning and change. As environmental consciousness grew, so did scientific understanding of the Earth's climate. Scientists revealed a disturbing trend. The planet was warming, and human activities were the primary culprit. This realization was met with resistance. The fossil fuel industry engaged in a campaign of disinformation. They funded research to cast doubt on climate science. Their goal was to sow confusion and delay action. These tactics created a public perception of uncertainty. This marked the beginning of organized climate change denial. It mirrored efforts by the tobacco industry to downplay the link between smoking and cancer. The strategy relied on manipulating public perception. By presenting climate change as a debate, they stalled policy changes for decades. Despite these efforts, the scientific community continued to raise the alarm. In 1988, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, was formed. This international body provided policymakers with objective assessments of climate change. The creation of the IPCC signaled a growing global recognition of the issue's gravity. The IPCC's first assessment report, released in 1990, confirmed what many scientists had been warning about. Human activities were altering the Earth's climate. The report served as a wake-up call, urging immediate action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. However, the response from world leaders was lukewarm at best. Throughout the 1990s, scientists continued to document the escalating impacts of climate change. Rising sea levels, more frequent and intense heat waves, and disruptions to weather patterns became increasingly difficult to ignore. The evidence was clear. Climate change was not a distant threat, but a present danger. Despite the mounting evidence, public awareness remained fragmented. Many still perceived climate change as an abstract concept, something that would affect future generations but not their own lives. This disconnect between scientific understanding and public perception posed a significant challenge. However, amidst the challenges, there were glimmers of hope. The Kyoto Protocol, adopted in 1997, marked the first international agreement aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. While the protocol had its limitations, it represented a significant step forward in global cooperation on climate change. Section 4. From Kyoto to Paris. International efforts take shape. The Kyoto Protocol, while groundbreaking, proved insufficient in addressing the climate crisis. Negotiations for a new agreement dragged on for years, hampered by political disagreements. Meanwhile, the impacts of climate change became increasingly difficult to ignore. The early 2000s witnessed devastating natural disasters linked to climate change. Hurricane Katrina in 2005 served as a stark reminder of the costs of inaction. Public perception shifted as people witnessed the consequences of a warming world. In 2015, world leaders gathered in Paris to adopt a new climate agreement. The Paris Agreement marked a turning point in international climate policy. For the first time, nations pledged to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. The Paris Agreement represented a hard-won compromise and a renewed sense of hope. It acknowledged the urgency of the climate crisis and provided a framework for cooperation. However, translating the agreement's aspirations into concrete action remained a challenge. Section 5. An inconvenient truth: climate change in the public eye. As international negotiations progressed, efforts to raise public awareness gained momentum. In 2006, former U.S. Vice President Al Gore released the documentary film An Inconvenient Truth. The film presented a compelling case for the reality of climate change and its potential consequences, capturing the attention of a global audience. An inconvenient truth played a pivotal role in shaping public opinion on climate change. It brought the issue into living rooms around the world, making it relatable and understandable for a broad audience. The film's success highlighted the power of storytelling and visual media in communicating complex scientific concepts. Gore's film coincided with a growing sense of urgency within the scientific community. Reports from the IPCC became increasingly dire, warning of catastrophic consequences if greenhouse gas emissions were not drastically reduced. The message was clear. The time for action was running out. The convergence of these factors, increased media attention, compelling documentaries, and increasingly urgent warnings from scientists, led to a significant shift in public opinion. Climate change was no longer a distant threat, but a present reality demanding immediate action. Section 6. A Generation Rises, Youth Activism and Global Movements. As climate impacts became impossible to ignore, a new generation of activists emerged, demanding action. Inspired by Greta Thunberg, young people organized climate strikes worldwide. Their message was clear. Time was running out, and their future was at stake. The movement resonated with people of all ages. These grassroots movements pressured governments and corporations to act. They demanded a rapid transition to renewable energy and an end to fossil fuel subsidies. The power of these movements lay in their ability to mobilize large numbers and shift public opinion. Youth activism highlighted the interconnectedness of social and environmental issues. Section 7. The Future We Face. Challenges and Opportunities. Today, climate change awareness is at an all-time high. The scientific consensus is undeniable, and the impacts are being felt around the world. However, translating this awareness into meaningful action remains a significant challenge. The fossil fuel industry continues to wield enormous power and influence, hindering efforts to transition to a clean energy future. Despite these challenges, there is reason for hope. The renewable energy sector is growing rapidly, with costs plummeting and technological advancements accelerating. More and more people are adopting sustainable lifestyles, reducing their carbon footprints, and advocating for change. The future of our planet depends on the choices we make today. We have the knowledge and the tools to address the climate crisis, but we need the political will and collective action to implement the necessary changes. The task ahead is daunting, but the stakes are too high to ignore. The fight for climate justice is a fight for a just and equitable future for all. It is a fight for the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the planet we call home. It is a fight we cannot afford to lose.